Hello, I'm Donald Leggett and welcome to the latest Focus IR CEO interview. I'm joined today by George Frangeskides, Executive Chairman at Alba Mineral Resources, the AIM-listed Welsh gold explorer developer who also hold a substantial interest in GreenRoc mining, the developers of a world-class graphite mine in Greenland. Alba now have access to level 4 at Clogau St David for the first time in decades, and George will talk us through these very positive developments and what they mean for Alba in 2024. Welcome, George.
Hi Donald, nice to speak to you again.
It's absolutely fantastic to have you on today. Before we go on to talk about 2024 in detail, it's been a frustrating year, or last year has been frustrating in terms of not being granted dewatering permits. But Alba has made significant progress at Clogau St David, and level 4 is now clear of water. In fact, you've walked level 4. So what comes next?
Thanks. Yeah, no. Look, I mean, let's not beat around the bush. You're absolutely right. It was a very frustrating time. We did actually get permits to dewater after a long process, but then we found torrential rainfall last summer in North Wales and everywhere else, I think, in the UK. That it was insufficient, really biblical rainfall. So we went back and got extended permits, which we have got just before Christmas. And we were ready for those, so we've been pumping at much higher rates, and that's what's enabled us to get down to level 4, which is our key target in the mine. And we only got there pretty much yesterday. We were down, Mark Austin and I, on level 4 yesterday, so it's very exciting. It's our primary gold target in the mine. What comes next? Well, we've got to do a risk assessment down there. It's not been dewatered, it's been flooded for decades, so first thing first, Monday, Tuesday next week, go in, do a risk assessment, see what other safety works are needed. I mean, it's a very robust, very competent development throughout the mine system. In other words, you don't really get collapses. Well, in fact, you don't get collapses, but we have to be careful about things like stacked deads and old material that's been left behind, and just do a risk assessment of that. So once we find out that things are secure enough, we will proceed straight to washing down the walls, taking some samples, doing some mapping, eventually getting a 3D scanning in device in there as we've scanned the rest of the mine that we've worked on. So those will be the initial steps in the coming weeks, really, rather than months. So coming in 1 to 2 weeks, we should have a good handle on what's going on down there.
So it's the first time that you and Mark Austin have just walked level 4. That's the first time in decades anyone has walked down there. Can you explain what you're looking for with the bulk sampling and so on and so forth, the 3D? How prospective is level 4 and how significant is it for Clogau and Alba?
Look, it's very prospective. We drilled a lot back a few years ago. We did a couple of years of drilling campaigns, both from surface and underground. The drilling that we did, which came up with this major target below level 4, essentially, is looking at an extension of what was a known producing pay shoot called the Lecfraith pay shoot. And we've been able to, through the drilling that we've done, intersecting the quartz veins, which we know host the gold historically at Clogau, and hitting some sniffs of gold as well, up to 4.25 grams per tonne. But it's not the kind of deposit that yields itself easily. So it isn't just about drilling, it's about going in, to getting the right structure, and then going in and bulk sampling to get the grade. So that's the plan. So we will be going in and bulk sampling below level 4, which has never been developed before. And as I say, there's this very big unit, about 122 metres deep, that's never been touched, and that's what's come out from our drilling. But we'll go in initially and do some winzing, perhaps 10-metre winzers, which is just basically narrow holes that we sink, take out several hundred tons of material to start with, and then take it from there, see what's in those, and then keep going, assuming that the grade looks good. And frankly, even if it doesn't look good, we're very, very confident that there is gold down there, so we will just carry on until we find it.
Okay, and does the watering continue? How long will those initial works take? Is it possible to give us a sense of a timescale?
Yeah, I think the risk assessment is going to be the key on the initial timescale. Dewatering carries on. Obviously, we always want to keep the level 4 completely clear of water now. So the dewatering will carry on, and as long as we're working down there, we'll be carrying on pumping out water because it's always being replenished from the hillside above. And so we'll continue to do that, but we're now happy that we've got the rates needed to do that no matter what is thrown at us from the Welsh weather. and so that's the first thing, and then we'll carry on dewatering below level 4 because the winzing, as I say, is going to be, and the bulk sampling is going to be below level 4. So we'll carry on about between 5 to 10 meters further below level 4. In terms of the winzing and the bulk sampling, I mean, again, as I said, risk assessment. We obviously, when we're down there, we're going to do some initial sampling, get the results back. We are going to look at the optimal places to do the bulk sampling from. We've got an idea, but until you go down there, the old historical maps, we've already found are not completely 100% up to date. So we're going to produce our own maps, and from that we'll know exactly where we want to go do the bulk sampling. So ideally, we'd be looking April-ish, that sort of timescale, possibly March, but it's very hard to say. As soon as we know and got a detailed timeline, we'll be telling shareholders.
Okay, let me take you above ground now. You've been conducting aerial geophysical surveys at Clogau and Gwynfynydd, which is a gold exploration project. Castle Cardochan has been completed with 2 other areas to follow. So can I ask you what you're looking for? Are you looking for new resource? And would that feed into 2024, 2025 work programs?
Yeah, we certainly are looking for new resource. I mean, we know that, well, look, these are historic mining areas. These aren't, on one level, they're greenfield in the sense that we've come up with these targets because we've done a lot of work already, surface sampling, geochem, stream sediment sampling. We've done a lot of work, and that's led us to these particular areas and a review of all the historical data. And that's led us, as I say, to these particular areas. And there are many others, by the way, in the Gwynfynydd goldfield that is all under license to us. But these are the ones we've identified to start with. There's been historical production at these areas: Hafod Owen, Hafod Owen, Castle Cardochan. Cardochan was a producing mine. It was a small scale mine compared to Clogau and Gwynfynydd, but it was very high grades of up to, I think, 150 odd grams per ton in places. So, very prospective, and just like at Clogau and Gwynfynydd, when we get to that mine as well, these are areas that we are confident a lot of gold has been left behind, and modern exploration has not been done on these sites. The last time that anyone did airborne surveys over some of these targets was in the 70s, I believe, for the predecessor of the British Geological Survey, and it was done at line spacing of, 200 meter line spacing. With these UAVs now, these modern techniques, these unmanned aerial vehicles, we're able to go a lot closer. So we're pretty excited about what that's going to uncover. Let's see, but we'll have some news on that hopefully within, again, a matter of days.
Okay, let me ask you about GreenRoc and the Amitsoq graphite mine project in southern Greenland. It's both a graphite mine and a processing plant. That's what you've got planned there. It's going to make GreenRoc one of a handful of vertically integrated graphite producers in Europe. So it's a big question, I'm afraid. But what were the highlights of 2023, and what do you see? What do you see in 2024?
Well, I suppose the highlights 23. I think 23. It's hard to remember back now because it's a bit of a blur. But I think early 23 was when we released our restated or upgraded mineral resource estimate at GreenRoc for Amitsoq, and that came up with cementing it as one of the very highest grade graphite projects in the world. The grade of the resource is 20.41% graphite. There are very, very few projects in the world that are plus 20% graded. So we are right up there in the Premier League, if you like, of graphite projects. And we've got a very nice, significant, substantial resource of 4.7 million tons of contained graphite. So very good. Now we know that there's a lot more graphite there, and when there is time, money, etc., we will, I'm sure, drill again to find more to increase the resource. We'll have to do some geotech drilling as well for development purposes. So lots of reasons to go back and drill some more, but that already gives us substantial contained resources, and as such, we've already done the PEA. So our preliminary economic assessment has shown, that was also released in 23. Has shown this to be a robust project from an economic standpoint already, even on the current figures, resource figures. So, we're looking at depends on the figures you look at. If you're looking at MPV 6, a 6% discount MPV, you're looking at about 243 million US dollars, 243 million US dollars after tax NPV with an IRR of 26.7%. So, these are very, very credible, robust figures.
Yes, you know these numbers better than us. Are those good numbers?
They're very good numbers, yeah. They're very good numbers. But, and they're very conservative numbers, I would say, as well. They're independent as well. I mean, we didn't come up with them. Obviously, we work with the independent consultants, but it's their assessment, SLR Consulting's assessment of where the project sits from an economic standpoint. There's a couple of things to bear in mind. One is it's fairly conservative. For instance, on the CapEx side of things, they came up with a $131 million CapEx figure for building the mine and processing plant at the mine site. But that includes a 25% contingency. So, no one is skimping here on the numbers in the sense that I think they're pretty conservative. We'll be firming up on those numbers, obviously, as we move into the PFS, which is our plan for this year. And the second thing to say about these numbers, they are all about the mine. They're not about the downstream processing. Any graphite project that has been proven, as ours has, to be amenable for being an input material into electric vehicle batteries, and not all graphite can do this, but ours can. That is the other part of this project, as you've said at the beginning, the downstream processing, not just producing a graphite concentrate, but also turning that graphite concentrate into high-grade anode material to go into electric vehicle batteries. That's where the major uplift in economics is expected from these types of projects. So the PEA doesn't cover any of that. So already as a base case, it's very robust. It's very, very credible, as I say. We're going to add to that this year. We've got a feasibility study on the anode plant that we would like to build, and that feasibility study should be finished in around May. So that'll be the second layer, if you like, of economics on top of this project, which I think will start to really sort of firm up its credibility and then the interest we're already getting from strategic partners and off-takers.
Okay, we're coming to the end of the interview, George. What sort of news flow can we expect from Alba over the next 6 months?
Well, having now got the permits that we needed to crack on with the key target at Clogau, that now means that we've got no delays expected at all. We go straight into level 4, as I said. We start doing some work there. We do some sampling. We're going to be putting out Newsflow regularly on what we're doing down at level 4 now that we're actually, motoring again. So that's one thing. As soon as we've got a plan for the bulk sampling, which is obviously the key second phase of work down there, we'll obviously put that to shareholders so that people are aware constantly of what we're doing and what the timelines are. The regional exploration is another piece, and that is, again, dependent on these results. Now, we'll be able to produce these results, I think, from the airborne surveys within a matter of weeks. That's certainly my expectation. And that will then determine what we do next. And obviously, we'd like to go and do some drilling there. I think that'd be very exciting to do some exploratory drilling. But let's see how defined these targets are now post the airborne survey, which will obviously overlay on all the other work and all the other data that we've got, and see if we've now got sufficiently refined targets for drilling. So that's the next stage, and that again will be something we'll be able to announce in the next matter of weeks, I would say. GreenRoc, we continue to do a huge amount of work at GreenRoc. Alba remains a major shareholder, the most important shareholder there. We're fully involved and engaged in what's going on at GreenRoc. There's huge amounts of discussions both on the strategic plays, the government side, whether that's UK, US, EU, huge amount of discussions with potential end customers, whether that's OEMs, gigafactories and the right. So, hard to say when that will come to fruition, but there's a lot of exciting potential there for tie-ups with significant groups, which I think will really make the market sit up and take notice. GreenRoc shouldn't be a 4 million market cap. Right now, it is, it's sitting on we think a world-class asset, and I think it's about time the market took notice of that. But we will continue to do the things that will mean that ultimately people can't ignore what we've got there, which is one of the very few projects in Europe that has any hope of going to production. We expect to be in production by 27 on our current timeline, and we will produce anode material for the European or the US market or the UK market, whoever comes up with the best terms for us. There's a huge amount of demand there that's going to be unmet in the coming decades, and we'll be one of the people who can meet some of that demand in Europe. So incredibly well placed there, and as I say, it's about time the market took notice of what GreenRoc's doing.
So my final question, I suppose that you could sum it up as, why should the market actually take notice of what you're doing, both at Alba and with GreenRoc? Why is now a good time for investors to put Alba Mineral Resources on their watch list?
Well, look, I mean, investors will have to do their own research, as we like to say, because the AIM market's been down, unfortunately, in the last year to 18 months, significantly down across the board. And then we've got potentially several other gold prospects that could be, at least one of them could be as big as Clogau. That remains to be seen. But the exciting thing is that that's all ours, right? We've got the exclusive license to the entire Dolgellau gold field, the biggest gold producing field in the UK. So, if you want to put us on the watch list, that's one good reason to do it. GreenRoc, again, I think I've said, it's sitting on a phenomenal asset, and we've got a fantastic management team. We're doing all the right things. We're proving the project up to be amenable for EVs, which we know it now is, and we'll be pushing that project forward this year as well. So I think those are the two reasons why Alba, as major shareholder of GreenRoc and as 100% owner of Clogau, is something that someone should put on their watch list for sure.
George Frangeskides, Executive Chairman at Alba Mineral Resources. That was terrific. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you for joining us today. We very much look forward to speaking to you again in 2024. And for more company information and to access the company bulletin board, please go to the Alba Mineral Resources page of London South East, and also the GreenRoc mining pages on London South East. Meanwhile, do follow us on Twitter. That's @_FocusIR_, and also @London South East, or register on London South East YouTube to receive alerts to our next Alba interview. All that remains for me to say is thank you very much indeed for watching.